North Carolina has a massive spike in its COVID infections. Perhaps it's all the sewage coming out of the Sanford Federal Courthouse. The governor of the state, Roy Cooper, along with the President of the United States, Donald Trump, both very concerned about the massive COVID spikes in and around Wake County, Raleigh, Durham, Wake Forest, Goldsboro, Winston-Salem, all down the center part of North Carolina, where just by coincidence, North Carolina has a massive sewage scandal that's been being covered up and whitewashed by federal and state authorities for a very long time. When you're dumping 250,000 gallons of raw sewage into the Raleigh area and you make light of it, 250,000 gallons. This is just in one spill. And they have thousands of spills. They call them spills, where they dump massive amounts of sewage into the environment in North Carolina. Now here's where it gets fascinating. The storm sewers and the blackwater sewers, the raw human excrement, they're all mixed together under the streets in cities like Raleigh, cities like Greensboro, Goldsboro, Winston-Salem, Statesville. It goes on and on and on all over the state of North Carolina. Raleigh, Durham, Wilmington, all these great big North Carolina cities have massive sewage problems and one of the largest COVID infection rates and death rates in the world. Now, I don't want to challenge anybody's intellect or not, but, raw human sewage make you real sick and kill you. Donald John Trump and, to the Governor Cooper of the state of North Carolina, let's discuss that massive sewage problem at the Sanford Federal Courthouse in Raleigh. And then let's take a look at the maps of where all these COVID infections and all these other people sick from encephalitis and, hepatitis and, all kinds of other sickening diseases, all associated with the massive sewage scandal and sewage debacle, just like at the Sanford Federal Courthouse. How about that, Judge Terrence W. Boyle? Isn't this fascinating? North Carolina's got sewage all over the place, and the President of the United States is concerned about the infection rates in North Carolina. Well, Mr. Donald John Trump, let's have a discussion about the giant sewage scandal, the giant sewage debacle in North Carolina. Maybe that'll give you some answers. Right, Governor Roy Cooper? The Department of Environmental Quality, the EPA, the General Services Administration, the North Carolina State Police, the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Agency, the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, they all know about this giant, huge sewage mess, this sewage debacle, this sewage scandal at the Sanford Federal Courthouse. And it's going on all over the state of North Carolina. And all over New York, and all over Connecticut, and all over Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and all over Washington, D.C., all up and down the St. Lawrence River, all over Chicago, all over Toronto, all over Detroit, all over Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, the Great Lakes. It's mind-bending up and down the Mississippi River. John Trump, Mafia Johnny, old Donnie Trump. Let's talk sewage in Raleigh, North Carolina, with Terrence W. Boyle, the senior federal judge at the Sanford Federal Courthouse. Ladies and gentlemen, I can go on for hours exposing these stinking slobs for what they are, but you can't dump billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of gallons of raw human sewage all over the New England states, all the way out to Chicago, hell, down to Atlanta. The whole northeastern sector of the United States is swimming in raw human sewage, and gee golly whiz, that's the epicenter of the COVID-19 debacle, the COVID-19. You know how many other viruses are in sewage, Governor Roy Cooper? Why don't you get a hold of Jeff Sipes and Mr. Tom Conti over at your North Carolina Department of Public Safety? Let's talk about all this sewage, Jeff Sipes. Tom Conti. Let's talk about all the sewage debacle and the sewage scandal of Judge Terrence W. Boyles at the Sanford Federal Courthouse. And that's the tip of the iceberg, folks. The Sanford Federal Courthouse is the tip of the iceberg. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it right there. And as always, hasta la vista, God bless, and you betcha, we're coming back.